Welcome into another Monday TRIfecta, y'all. It's a podcast that's sweeping the nation.
Or just the Tri-Cities.
Or just the Tri-Cities in the region. But
we are getting love from Royal. A lot of people in Royal.
Yeah, I know people in Royal watch it, so that's great because they are still alive.
Yep.
We have 3 teams still alive in the state football playoffs. We have 3 beasts of the East, as I like to call them. And they're going to try and take down one of them is going to try and take down a West Side team. The other 2?
Rivalry game.
They will be going
It's rivalry week in high school and in college.
It is a big week ahead of us, so we're going to touch on that. That's where we're going to go. And we also have a chat with the MCC Player of the Year on the offense, Mr. Tuna Alta here. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But first, let's go with the 3A bracket. Kennewick is into the semifinals, everybody. They take down Bethel 21-20. They advance to the semis for the first time in
a long time.
26 years, wow. 1992. And if they won on Saturday, it'd be the first time, just be the second time ever, but the first time they'd make it to the championship game since 1983. And that is before both of us were born.
Which means that's a very, very long time.
36 years ago. So the Lions are already on a historic run. Neither of us were at that game, unfortunately, because of just where it is. And didn't get highlights because we didn't get highlights either. Our Seattle friends were busy with other things. But from what do you know from the game? Because I know you've reached out to a couple of the players.
I know that the game was established with Miles Miowski, which is what we've been preaching about Kennewick since training camp, that the sophomore sensation was going to be the anchor to what the offense and even what the defense was able to do, because he is so good at keeping his feet moving. And we'll talk to Tuna in just a little bit. He kind of talks about the same thing. He keeps his feet moving. He never gives up on plays, and he's not going to take a 2-yard gain. He's going to extend that to 4 or 5 yards. And so that's what they were able to do. Right off the bat, Miles had a really, really good game, 100-plus yards rushing. But the guy that got into the end zone was Elijah Tanner. 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 in the air. So really what they did is they were able to get, when they got the football, they were establishing it with Miles and let Miles really get them into the end zone. And once they got into the end zone, you know that the field becomes a lot smaller and that they're going to pack guys in. And they kind of knew what Kennewick wanted to do. They wanted to get to Miles, but shout out to Randy Affolter, first-year head coach at Kennewick, and he leads them to the semifinals. So a little bit of misdirection, rushes with his quarterback, Elijah Tanner, on 2 separate occasions to get into the end zone, and then on another play allows him to work that magic and throw a passing touchdown. So they win 21-20. A little bit of deja vu. 2 weeks ago against Yelm, 35-34, goes into overtime, and it was due to kickers. Oh, those poor high school kickers.
Yeah, man.
Yelm's kicker misses it in overtime, which means that Kennewick wins that game at home. Elijah Tanner scores with a minute left in the fourth quarter. It's 21-14. So you think, the defense has played great all game. There's not a chance now that Bethel is going to be able to go down all the way and score a touchdown quickly. Yeah, and they do. They go all the way down in like 40 seconds, score a touchdown. But the special teams for Kennewick comes up big yet again. They block the extra point.
Do we have a name on the block?
We do not have a name on the block, unfortunately. But we'll find out who did it and give you a shout-out. But blocks the extra point, and get this. Then Bethel recovers the onside kick. So there's like 20 seconds left in the game now. It's 21-20, and then the Braves weren't able to get into the end zone, obviously. Kennewick's defense shut them down. I don't even think they got any plus yardage after recovering. But they made it interesting at the end. And again, Kennewick has been built to be clutch because they've had experiences the last couple weeks coming into the playoffs. I think back against the game against Richland, which Elijah Tanner scores on a game-winning drive with less than a minute left. The game against Yelm, all those games gave them experience.
They've had a lot of close games.
And and I think that they're built to play in close games, which is going to be good for them coming up this week.
And talking about Randy, and he is a first-year head coach at Kennewick, but what I was doing is I was pulling up, he was at Ellensburg before that. And Ellensburg has been in the playoffs a lot when he was the head coach. They've gone to the semifinals, they lost in the quarters, they lost in the semis, lost in the semis, lost in the quarters, so lost in the semis. So what I'm trying to illustrate is just because he's a new coach at Kennewick, he knows how to coach in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's been there before.
He knows how to coach playoff football, and it's a different style, and it's not something that's surprising him. It's different than if it was a very first-year head coach who just took over a program who never head coached before and
Freddie
he's doing
Kitchens.
this. Yeah, something like that. But Randy knows it. And I want to know, and when we go out to practice tomorrow, I think this is a good question. How much has he relied on, even though it is the 2A level, how much he's relied on that experience to help this run? Ellensburg never won a state title while he was there because the only state title they had was in 1974. And I'm pretty sure Randy was not the head coach at that time. But just there's got to be he's got to feel comfortable. He's got to feel comfortable on the sidelines and the buttons he's pushing. And he's talked about all year about shout out to the student athletes who have bought into the program because under a first-year head coach, you don't know. And Bill Templeton was a respected guy and a liked guy before, but he's always liked that he's gotten the players to buy into this first-year program, and they're off to historic things. And they are into the semis again for the first time in almost 30 years. They will take on
O'Day. And
Who
quickly before we go to O'Day, just like as a former athlete, when your coach is calm, cool, and collected in tough moments where like the pressure is rising, that is such a help to the athlete. Right. If you're a young 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, you look to your head coach to be, the example of what you need to be. And Randy is always cool, calm, collected, whether he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. And so as a former athlete, I can put myself in the shoes of a Miles or Elijah Tanner, who is 6-0 as a starter since coming in for Blaine. So shout out to Elijah Tanner, who's just been able to come in. And again, that comes back to just Randy being able to allow these kids to buy into what he's selling. And the thing is that's great for these young kids, a lot of young kids on this team.
Yep.
So they'll be back next year, and they have this to look back on and be like, what coach was preaching, it actually works out.
Yeah, and so now we'll turn our attention to O'Day. They are not a team that are seeing the semifinals for the first time in 30 years.
No, they've been there before.
They've been there for the last 3 years. Wow. This is their fourth straight semifinal appearance. They have they've won every single one of them. Yes, I don't know why there's not a semifinal score on there against the Kamiakin year that they went there. But they have not lost a semifinal because they've been in the state title game for the last 3 years as well. So they are playing a team that is going to be the favorites. And I bet if there was a Vegas betting line, which there is not for high school.
That would be so much fun.
They'd open as favorites. They're also at home on the west side, so they're going to be favorites. But that means Kennewick, they were underdogs this week too. They're just going to go out there and play their game that they like to play and have that underdog mentality. They're not going to have to worry about expectations. O'Day is, but they are 11-0. They are a good team. They run the ball a lot. That's just the program. That's just what they've done. Because every time I've seen O'Day play, even going back to that 2016 state title game, they just run the ball. And they don't do anything super fancy. They run it at you. They just think they have better athletes, stronger athletes, and they're just going to run it straight at you. We were looking at stats. Their quarterback has thrown it 58 times in 8 games.
I'm not like a mathematician, but that's like 5-6 passes a game.
Yeah. So, what we said too, kind of can play into Kennewick's favor because they're up front. Their front seven is good. Is a very good, solid group. So if they keep running at them, hopefully they can. If they could keep the score within that 20, 21-point range, I think they're in for a good thing on Saturday.
And I mean, O'Day beat Mount Spokane 10-3 last week, and it seems that they play a very old school brand of football. I'm going to look at Jagger Childs this upcoming week. I'm going to talk to him at practice tomorrow, kind of get a feel of how he has been so dominant this season. I'm going to really look at him because he's such a disruptor off the edge. And if he can get into the backfield and he can force them to throw the football, which their quarterback does not have a lot of experience doing this year, like you said, only 58 pass attempts this season, it's going to be very important for that front seven. It's different than Yelm. I always go back to that game because the running quarterback for Yelm was better at running than their actual running back. So that's where they gave them issues because, as you know, RPOs, the pros can't figure it out. And so how do you expect high school kids to figure it out? It seems that O'Day's running style is a lot different and that they just have a guy, but they also have
there's
2 or 3 dudes that'll come in and give them a break.
There's like three guys that have 300 yards. There's one dude that has almost 1,000, averaging 120 a game. And Jagger's going to be important. Discipline on the edges is going to be important because they do also run misdirections with their running attack. So you can't over pursue, and you just have to be on your slots and on the gap control and know what you're doing. And I anticipate this, just the way that we're looking at these two teams. They love to run the ball. They love to hold on to the ball, time of possession.
And they don't make a lot of mistakes. Elijah Tanner has not thrown a lot of interceptions and fumbles, anything like that. He takes care of the football.
Yeah, and he's very, he'll take advantage of those opportunities when you run the ball and then some things open up in the secondary. So I anticipate this being a lower scoring game. And whoever holds the ball more, which is, this is football and that's how that works, is going to have the better game. But it's going to be so much more important with O'Day because they run the ball almost every single play. And you could look up, I'd imagine, and there's drives that are 5-6 minutes. And that's one drive. So you're not going to have as many offensive possessions, so you got to capitalize on them. And then you're going against another really good, they're undefeated. The Irish defense is good, and they've only given up 91 points in 11 games. So they're not even giving up 10 points a game. But if you can keep running them and you can make that defense tired, which is they're going to want to do the same exact thing to each other.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do. And the point that Kennewick will have the advantage of is they're going to be able to throw the ball, and they have more weapons on the outside. They just got to use them.
Yeah, that's the thing it's going to come down to because to use a boxing analogy, you can have two of the biggest heavyweights just throwing haymakers at each other. But one of them is going to eventually have to play defense. Or the opposite. You could have a Floyd Mayweather that just plays defense the whole time, but to win the fight, you're going to have to take some risks. And that's what they're going to have to do. Simeon Howard had a great game against Yelm. He also had a touchdown reception against Bethel. And I think that things like that's going to happen. Elijah Tanner is going to have to roll out. He's going to have to throw the ball down the field because you cannot play 4 quarters of football just running the football. You can try, but
O'Day does.
Yeah, O'Day does. But to really beat somebody at their own game, you have to do something that they're not going to anticipate. So I anticipate this week in practice, Randy putting together a game plan where, yes, they're going to use Miles because when you have a 4-star running back that's only a sophomore, that's really since Blaine went out, put this team on his back, and there's legitimate arguments as to he should have won the MVP of the MCC as well. I think you're going to have to definitely put something into the game plan where you can have a flea flicker or something that's going to throw that defense off guard because they're big up front, but they're not quick. We were watching some of the clips from them on their up front. They are big, but they're not super quick, and that's where Kennewick can get them.
Yeah, so we'll see. It should be a good game. It's 6 o'clock on Saturday at a Memorial Stadium, I believe, over on the west side, and we should be getting highlights of that one. No problem. That is not going to be an issue because the West Side loves O'Day, so they should be at that game, and we'll hit up our friends over at Como and see if we can get that game for y'all back here. Now we turn our attention to we'll go to the number 13 seed, the Cinderella of the WIAA state bracket. They are the bracket. They are March Madness in November because they're still alive and they are the low. They've got to be. I didn't even look, but they've got to be the lowest seeds. They have to be because they were the lowest seed to win the first round, so they're definitely the lowest seed to still be alive in the second round. That is the Connell Eagles, who took down Mount Baker, the number 5 seed, on Saturday. You were there at Moses Lake, which they'll be again, unfortunately.
Yep.
Gosh darn it.
Great game. They got off to a super slow start. Mount Baker ran a kind of weird T-bone offense in which they had a bunch of dudes in the backfield and they just would hand it off, like RPO. O'Day. Yeah, and it's like O'Day. So that's basically what they did. But they took a couple shots, scored the first touchdown, and then got a safety. So quick 9-0 start, but Connell bounces back. Kian Francois, beautiful touchdown.
Names.
Beautiful touchdown to end the first half. So you go into halftime only down by 2. You put yourself in a great spot. Third quarter was an interesting one. Both teams did not want to make mistakes. And so nothing really happened in the third quarter. And then one of the Tuttle brothers, I can't remember which one, but one of the Tuttle brothers, 40, I believe.
That is
Jacoby. So Jacoby Tuttle gets a big run, 25-yard run that puts them into enemy territory. And then they get the ball to the 1-yard line. A couple of penalties in the red zone by both teams, but the big one was on third down. Penalty went against Mount Baker, automatic first down, puts them in the red zone. They get it to the 1, and then we go to the fourth quarter. And then Johnson, he calls his own number, sneak into the end zone. Fourth quarter was Mount Baker desperately.
Not Trevor, that's Traver Johnson.
Traver, yep.
Traver Johnson.
Yeah. And then the fourth quarter, Mount Baker just didn't have an offense where they could just had a vertical passing game and could make plays. And what it came down to was a missed field goal, which would have made it an 8-point game, which really would have put them in a nice spot. Misses a field goal, doesn't phase. Yeah, Connell misses the field goal, doesn't phase the Eagles at all. They just come onto the field. And I can't remember the kid's name, number 13 for the Connell Eagles. He was on Mixed Picks last night. Can't believe I'm missing this. Paulson is his last name, I believe.
Paulson, this guy.
I'm messing up. It's
all right.
just big L for me. But Josiah Paulson, there we go. Boom,
Nailed
right
it.
there we go. Big interception. He had 2 picks in the game, one that came in the first half, and then a huge one with 30 seconds left, and then the party just got started. Really cool to see Connell just really not get phased by a 13 seed that the WIA decided to give to him. They just went out and had played football, very well coached, very disciplined, and they are going to the semifinals.
Yeah, and they didn't like that seed. I know when we first saw the seeding, I wasn't like super surprised by it. They're still there. There's a great tweet that they sent out. A lot of hidden shade. I liked it.
Still here.
They also had the disadvantage. And they even talked about it when I talked to them last week that they play with the best team in the state, and they called them that, and that would be the Royal Knights, who are rolling because they do it every single year, 62-6 in round 2.
Have they scored 60+ in each of their
First 2, yeah, against the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. They beat OMAC, and this game going into it, last week when I talked to Wiley before the game against who'd they play round 1?
Charles Wright?
Charles Wright Academy. He said, when we start facing teams that can match up with us up front, that are bigger than us up front, we might run into better games. We might run into a little bit of challenges. Well, OMAC had that. OMAC had a big front line. They could match up with them, and it was not close. The Pioneers got off to we're up 6-0. They're up 6-0. They ran. It wasn't a trick play, I would say. It was the fullback lined up and got lost in the wash. It was a play action, and then he was wide open for 50 yards down the field, put it on him, and OMAC was right in business. But after that, it took them like 7 plays to get into the end zone, so I was like, okay, well, they still can't run the ball. They kind of opened it up on a kind of a trick play-ish, well-designed play, and they get in. But then I saw they missed extra point, and I was like, well, the way that Royal scores, they're going to score a touchdown, so that extra point could be big. Ended up not being big because from that point on, the Royal scores 62 straight points, and the offense was just outstanding. They were up and down the field. Caleb Christensen to Cooper Christensen and Derek Bergeson Saturday, were working.
C-Cubed, best wide receiver quarterback connection in the
as
state.
I like to call them, they are elite. They got to be top 5 wide receiver quarterback combos in the state. Caleb had 4 touchdowns in the first half. I think he had 6 overall in the whole game. Oh, look, Mid-Columbia Volleyball came out. We're going to look at that, and we'll do this live when we come to the volleyball portion of this program in just a little bit. So we have breaking news that just came across my phone. And
Hannah Hare is the player of the year from Walla Walla, which is
wow,
shocking.
But to be fair, what did I tell you like last week? I said that in the. I said it's either going to be Sage Brewstead or Hannah Hare. So
never will I ever say something that takes away from one of our athletes winning an award. So congratulations to Hannah Hare for winning the MVP. I just really thought they were going to give it to Sage, and it's kind of shocking. And congratulations to Hannah, but also congratulations to Sage. Both of these players dominant throughout the entire year. Can't be mad at it, but yeah.
Yeah, those are the 2 that I would have picked, and we can get into it a little bit, but yeah, I'm not super surprised because this is how things go. I've seen these.
You've been around the block a couple times, so you know
how these things work some here and there. Anyways, back to the Royal game. So that was some breaking news, though. Mid-Columbia first team all conference came out. We'll get to that, but Hannah Hare, Marin Mackey, Sage Brewstead, Sienna Iverson, Kylie Thorne, Peyton Pedersen, Madeline Gabers, and Ryan White are your first team all-conference MCC volleyball. All right, back to Royal and the shellacking that they put on OMAC in the quarterfinals. Caleb had 4 first half touchdowns. I know he had at least 2 in the second half. I'm trying to figure out who had the last touchdown because it wasn't said, but at least 6. And their wide receivers get open, but the problem is once they're open, they don't go down. And there's yards after catch all over the field. Derek broke some dude's leg, it looked like.
It was pretty bad.
I mean, it was filthy. And then Caleb just is a big wide receiver, and he can turn it upfield. So and then you have Lorenzo Myrick in the backfield. Their offense is working. But let's also talk about their defense that's been outstanding as well. 4 turnovers in the first half, a couple fumbles, and that gives their offense short fields, easy fields to go out and score. And if you give Royal a short field inside the 30-yard line, the 40-yard line, they're going to score. And that's what happened. And suddenly, in a blink of an eye, the game that you thought was going to be close was not. And it was running clock in the quarterfinals into the second half. And they've outscored their opponents now 126-13. Avery Ellis on that defense is outstanding. Michael Perez. Yeah, there's a lot of good dudes, and I'm excited for what is to come because now we have a rematch with Connell versus Royal in the playoffs. And we already know what this rivalry is. In the regular season, they've met a few times in the playoffs, and now we get the next installment of some outstanding football. 1A. One of the best 1A rivalries in the state.
Yeah, I mean, Royal won the first meeting 34-0. Sorry, I was tweeting out the
wasn't even paying attention to
the
me.
volleyball stuff. This is what happens. I get distracted. But yeah, Royal won the first matchup of the season 34-0. Just some notes quickly on this rivalry. The last win for Connell was back in 2013. It was actually a shutout for the Eagles, 28-0 over the Royal Knights. That's kind of before this real decade of dominance, and if you want to call it like won what? If they win this year, it's 4 state titles in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of before Royal went on this huge winning streak. Royal is 7-3 in their last 10 regular season matchups, but when they've met in the playoffs, the Knights are 3-0 in the playoffs. So this rivalry runs deep. It's really become dominant by Royal in the last couple of years, but if you look back on it as a long historical rivalry, it's really been balanced between Connell and Royal, but the Knights have really started to dominate the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think historically, if you look back, and if we went back and did the whole thing, Royal would have the edge, but it's closer than a lot of people would think because Connell had the edge, Connell had the edge for a long time when they were good and they were running to state titles and stuff because they have 3 in their own right. It's not like Royal has 8. But yeah, so we have last meeting was 2016. I was there in the state title game. It was awesome. I loved that game. It was a great game. 25-10. They've met again in 2015, the year before in the semis, 47-7. And then in 2007, also in the finals, 28-16. And that was to Royal. So they've always met. I think a lot in the WIA bylaws, they're supposed to meet in the semis for the East Side teams so that, I don't know why, but that's part of the bylaws is what I heard. So whatever. But it's round 2. Early in the year, as you said, there was a shutout Royal. Little known fact or something that doesn't get acknowledged, Connell did run for 200 yards in that game. But there was a lot of missed opportunities for the Eags that played into Royal's hands. Like I said, if you give the Royal a short field, they're going to score. And so we get a very familiar matchup, which I think I'm still going back and forth on who that favors more. Because most of the time in the playoffs, we've seen Bethel, Kennewick, they've never seen each other all year.
Yeah.
O'Day, you don't see them all year. They see each other every single year. There's nothing that Connell's doing that Royal doesn't know. There's nothing Royal does that Connell doesn't know. So you have 2 really familiar opponents, and they played already this year. If there's one, and I think that's huge, if there's one team that's going to give Royal a problem, it's going to be a team that hasn't seen them for the first time. Because if you see them for the first time, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
I can't. It's overwhelming for me to try and shoot the game and tweet at the same time.
Because there's touchdown after touchdown after touchdown.
And then it gets demoralizing. You think you're a good team. Olmec had to think you're a good team, right? You're in the quarterfinals. You had a really good season, and you just get smacked.
Yeah.
So it's got to be demoralizing if you've never seen it before. So Connell's seen it before.
And also there's the rivalry factor. When they're your rivals, you don't care.
Right.
You just want to go out and smack them. You don't care what they've been doing.
They also got to feel when are we going to beat these guys?
Yeah.
Because that's also got to start playing in your head, right, at some point. So I don't know who it favors. I think it favors the defense that sees a team for the second time in general. That would be my feeling, because they know what they're going to get. But again, they've seen this offense for a lot of times. I don't know.
It's going to be a great matchup. When I saw it, when Connell won, I kind of had I'm not going to lie. I knew Royal was going to beat OMAC.
Well, yeah.
Just knew it. So when Connell wins, even though the Royal game hasn't gone final, I was like, okay.
It was at halftime.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be a good time. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to anybody can beat anybody. But when you have dudes like Royal does, it's very hard to overcome an elite quarterback at that level with an elite wide receiver. And we're not even talking about just Cooper. Like, they have multiple dudes on the outside. And then you don't forget about Lorenzo Myrick in the backfield. Like, they just got so many guys that it's very, very hard to overcome.
But if Connell is going to win this game, they've got to lean on those Tuttle brothers, and they've got to rush for 200 yards again.
Yeah.
And this time they got to secure the ball or whatever, not have penalties or whatever it may be. Because if there's one thing you're going to do is you're going to need to tire out the Royal defense. Because the problem is Royal comes on and they're like fresh as a daisy. Just going to go smack you again, three and out, get off the field, watch the offense go score. So you got to control the ball, got to control possession. Can't give that offense as many opportunities. I mean, 34 points. Holding Royal to 34 points is a good, that's a good output. You probably need to hold them to like 28 or 21 if you want to stay within striking
because
distance.
You also have to score the football.
Yeah, but they're going to, I think if Connell can run the ball with the two Tuttle brothers. I know one of them kind of got banged up in that game. So if you can still run it, keep their offense off the field, methodical, but you got to score. You can't go down and even kick field goals. You almost need to be going for it at all times because you know Royal's going to score. But if they can do that and keep that offense off the field and you run for another 200 yards and don't have the mistakes, it's going to be a closer game. The great news through all this, we're having a state team we're going to have a 1A team in the state final. Last year we were shut out. Our region was shut out in the state final bracket for the first time in like 3 decades.
Wow.
Last year, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, were you bored?
I wasn't bored. I just wanted to watch some state football. I was depressed. I didn't watch anything. So anyways, we're going to have one back no matter what. Connell or Royal are going to the state championship. One of them is. Yep. And if Connell goes, it's got to be one of the lowest seeds ever to make the state title game.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to do some research.
Yeah, I'll look into that. But so that's great. That game is at 3 p.m. in Moses Lake at Lions Field. I will be there. We'll be going live from the game. I'll be there the whole game, try and get some post-game and stuff like that. But that's gonna be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The only thing I would say is it's
gonna be like 20 degrees.
We could have had it right down the street at Edgar Brown.
Yeah,
or like at Lamson. I don't understand. And that's both closer to, I don't know. Is Royal closer to Moses Lake than it is here?
No,
I doubt it, or else it would be there would be teams from Moses Lake in the SCSC conference.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my one beef, and I guess it has to do with like double headers, and there's a double header there, so they're only going to have to pay for one facility instead of the WIAA paying for 2 facilities. But you know what?
Fork over the cash.
The WIAA is not on my friends list right now because also, side note here, if both teams, we know we're going to have to be at the 1A state title game. It's at noon.
But if Kennewick also wins.
And if Kennewick beats O'Day, guess what, guys? That game is also at noon at a totally different facility at Sparks Stadium, which is, just looking on my little map, 20 minutes away. Not sure how we're going to make this work, but we'll figure out a way because we always do. But that's WIAA. Wow. Sweet move there by moving it out to Tacoma Dome. I know it was a stunt. I know you wanted to show that you guys are powerful, but not good. Not good for us media types. And if you want these kids to get coverage, didn't do them any service. All right, now we move on to volleyball, which we just had the first team all-conference come out.
Baby.
So that's good. And yeah, congratulations, Hannah Hare. I don't want anyone to believe that she wasn't deserving because she's a great player and she dominated. When she dominated, she dominated. She probably was the most important player to that team. I will say that because there's another way to look at it. If you take Hannah off that team, where would Walla Walla be?
Yeah.
If you take Sage off that team, I think Richland's still probably a better team at that point. So, when you're looking at things, I don't know how they look at it. I'm not going to pretend I do know I know what they do. I know the head coaches and athletic directors kind of get in a room and they kind of go over things. That's the process. I have no say in it. Mick has no say in it. We don't have votes, so don't come at us.
Yep. It had nothing to do with it.
I know ADs have like to joke that I should have a vote or like just decide so that we get all the heat. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. If we will take a vote.
Yeah, we'll take a media vote.
But we will not be the determining vote
I don't want all that.
I'm not prepared for all the mama bears out there to come for us.
Mama and Papa Bears.
Let's go quickly through the volleyball. Richland placed 8th in the WIAA.
Oh, yeah, state tournament was down at Sundome this weekend?
Yep. TCP placed 4th. Kennewick, 3rd time ever.
3rd time ever in Kennewick school history, according to the WIAA site. So please, also, if you know that's not true, don't come at me with that heat because that's what it says on WIAA site, and that is the archive, official archive. So it's the 3rd time in Kennewick high school history
that they went to the state
and
tournament.
Kennewick is the first high school.
I mean, you have to
be the first one
think, right?
in the city. I mean, I don't know when that opened and when volleyball programs started, but that's got to be a long time.
Yeah.
So congrats to Brandy Sonderland and her team to getting them back to the state title. And what you said about Kennewick's football team is kind of true with Kennewick Lions' volleyball team. They have some seniors. They have some people on it, but Autumn's just a sophomore.
Grace Morby's a junior.
Yeah, they have pieces coming back next year. So look for them to make another state run and get that first win at the state tournament because they needed to get a win. They lost both on that day, so that was a bummer. But Richland, 8th in the state.
Shocking for me.
Yeah.
I really thought it was. I
thought they would win. I thought they would get into the winner's side of the bracket. At least I was hoping. I mean, it's hard. Like once you get there, once you get on that winner's side, that's the first game. To me, the first game in that style of bracket is almost more important than the state title game. In a way, because you can't get to the state title if you don't win your first game.
Yeah.
Like you literally have to do one game at a time. That's how you look at it. And they ran up against North Creek, who has a girl that's a freshman that's going to Florida University. She's a freshman and she's already verbally committed to Florida, which could change. She's a freshman, so who knows? But and they got the first set. The one thing, and I've talked about this with you a lot, is that even when they played Chihuahua or Walla Walla at time, I think Walla Walla won a match. Maybe not. Whatever. They win a couple games, and then Chihuahua would win that third.
Yeah.
And when you win the game and you set the momentum, you need to keep pressing on the pedal. You cannot let another team back into it. And so against North Creek, they went to 5 games, and they ended up losing. Yeah,
I talked to a source that was at the game, and they said, I'm not going to say who it was, but I talked to a source that was live at the game. And they said the first game was very impressive. They came out and looked really good. North Creek then made the adjustment and started putting 2 people on the outside hitters and was really able to control the ball at the net and did a really good job blocking, which we talked about. Like Richland, one of their strengths was outside hitting and serving. Blocking was not one of their biggest strengths, and serving was so-so. Not as dominant as it's been throughout the regular season, but North Creek really made that adjustment, and they did a really good job of putting 2 girls on Sage when she would go up to the net, and they were able to do a really good job blocking. And so that really became the difference. And like you said, I don't want to say that they took their foot off the gas, but if you give somebody an inch, especially in volleyball it seems, and they can go on runs, the momentum switches so quick. It's like basketball. Momentum can switch so quickly. And I feel like that's what happened against North Creek.
They did go 2-2 overall, I believe, in the tournament. They lost that one. They won the next one. Won the next one on Saturday, their first game on Saturday, to play for a trophy. And then they lost the trophy game, so they came in 8th overall. But, I think if there's one thing that I try and point out is these trends with volleyball. I played volleyball, kind of understand volleyball a lot. And if you give the team, if you're up 2-0 and that team wins the other team wins the third, it's a daunting task, but a lot of people think they can win.
Yeah.
Like I've seen so many times where that third game is important. So for all those girls coming back, win. Just go and don't worry about don't worry about letting the other team in. And I know like it's high school and it's youth sports, so maybe coach is trying to get some girls in when they're up 2-0, get them some playing time, which I totally understand. Like those other girls also put in work too. And when you're up by a team on 2 and you think you can do it, but maybe do it for 10 points and then see how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they come in 8th. TCP comes in 4th for the 2nd straight year. Good showing by them and Coach Al. And Emily Dixon looked good in that tournament. She looked really good on day 1. And then Kennewick, we've already talked about that. So moving forward. But yeah, so we only have one sport left for the fall calendar. We already have basketball already starting. That's pretty cool. We also have a game, I think, in like 2 weeks. No, wait, what's today?
Less than a week, because Hanford has that weird game in November.
Is it this week?
It might be this week. Is it on Friday? It might be on Friday. I don't know.
Here,
Check
guys,
real
I'll
quick.
pull up the calendar right here.
Quickly, let's transition over to AMS hockey while Alan is looking up on whether we have a basketball game. AMS have a 4-game losing streak, lost all 3 of their games this weekend, which was really, really tough. They'll be back at the Toyota Center this coming Wednesday, so it'll be a good game.
Oh, it was
before
rescheduled. It was
Thursday.
this Saturday. Oh, there was one game that was scheduled for this Saturday, but it's now been rescheduled to December 4th.
So no
That was
November
Saturday.
basketball.
Let's look at the ladies' side of things. Also been rescheduled. So that's awesome because that would have been.
That would have been a conundrum.
Yeah, because we also have to go. Well, Mick doesn't know this, but Mick has to go to Heppner or go down to Hermiston on Saturday for the Heppner state semifinal game. Breaking news, Mick is going to have to go to Hermiston because the Heppner Mustangs of our Oregon friends are in the state semifinals.
For what?
2:30 football.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. Breaking news for me.
Yeah, so 2:30. It's at Hermiston. That's really close by, and Heppner
Really
Mustangs.
close by. It's like 45 minutes.
That's in the MCC ring, so it's like.
Are you comparing it to Royal? Like
Compared to
distance-wise?
Moses Lake, you could, yeah. So, well, it's kind of cool. I'm actually, here's a sidebar. We don't get to Oregon as much as I'd like.
I think we got one game this year.
Yeah, I mean, we did get one game, and I'm bummed about it. We just don't have the manpower. Really, we don't have the manpower. And to do it all well. So it's really cool to me that even if we pick up this team, and I know there's going to be some Heppner fans out there like, oh, you haven't been around all year, but hey, we can get you your state semifinal game, and that's cool.
Yeah,
Let's
and if
see
you
how it
complain
goes.
about me being there, I'll just leave.
Well, we got to get. Oregon has like official passes, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. But anyways, so we're going. What were we talking about?
I don't even remember. We just going. Oh, we talked quickly about AMS. I completely forgot. You definitely forgot. We had a conversation with somebody this week. We have a special guest. Let's talk AMS, and then we have a special guest on the Monday TRIfecta podcast.
Oh yeah, dude, we definitely skipped over that.
Yep.
So, AMS 3-3 nights, tough, very very tough. To play basketball 3-3 nights is.
But you got to get one, right?
You got to get one, and 2 of them were at home.
Yeah.
2 of them were at home. That's where I was going with it. Like 2 were at home, and then the last one was the only one on the road. It was also a weird start time on a Sunday, but they got the first one went into overtime.
Yep.
Second one, did that one go into overtime too?
Nope.
No. And the third one.
Third one went into overtime too.
So they got 2 points out of 6. So that's essentially saying you won 1 game, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to get. They were good games. I think they were all good games. They're all 1-goal games. Yeah, they were all 1-goal games. So I don't think they would. When we go talk to them this week, I don't think they're going to be super disappointed by the way they played. I think it'd be about the way they finished because they scored first in all 3 games. And in hockey, not much with basketball. Like if you score the first hoop in basketball, who really cares?
Yeah.
But you score the first. But if you get out to the first 10-point lead, I think that's how I like trying to equate. 1 goal equals 10 points in a game like volleyball or basketball or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so hockey, the AMs score the first goal in every single game. They're in control. On Friday, they score the first 2. And then the Ice come back, led by Isaac Johnson, returning to the Toyota Center and got the game winner in overtime. And for me, covering the kid and knowing what he's kind of gone through, it was great for me to just see him out on the ice and playing hockey again and doing well.
And getting a game winner, that's awesome that he was able to.
For what he's going through and with everything that went through last year, good for him. But the Americans, they get 2 points out of 6. And the really bad one, though, is that means like Everett also got 2 points in that overtime. You never want to go to overtime. The way the point system works for hockey, you never really want to go to overtime with your own division, because then that means they get a point too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they they go 0-3 on the weekend. Oh, I guess it's 0-1-2 the way that they do it. And they will play. Oh, they play on Saturday. We got a weekday game.
Yeah, I said that Wednesday.
So
sorry. We have an instance where I wasn't paying attention to him and he wasn't paying attention to me. It's just kind of how it works over here.
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, all home games, 3-game homestand this week. So if you want some hockey in your life, go ahead and do it. They play Saskatchewan. Who do they play?
Who they play?
Saskatoon. Whoops. That wasn't a place. That wasn't a province before. Saskatoon. Then they play Royal, Victoria, and then they play Vancouver. Okay, so that was the AMs. We'll get out to practice today. But what we should have done is, if we rewound the tape, I said at the very top of the show, we were going to talk to the MCC Offensive Football Player of the Year. That totally skipped our mind because we were just going too deep with the Bethel stuff. But yeah, I had Tuna Alto here, Kamaikin's running back, come into studio last week when we found out who was the Offensive Player of the Year. Sat down with him. We talk about just his season, some recruiting, and also Kennewick's still in it, and he is good friends with Miles Mayovsky, so I asked him about Miles and kind of comparing their two running styles, so let's listen in now. You find out you're the Player of the Year, right? What's the first thing that goes through your head?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to do this without like my teammates, my coaches, for them always pushing me, and just, I thank them for this.
1,600 yards, 1,400 on the ground, pretty much doubling last year's output.
Yeah.
What was the difference this year?
I mean, this year I just felt more confident. I don't know, I just like the offense better. Last year we did a huddle, but then like right as we started doing like our speed offense versus Hermiston, that's when I got snapping again. I just like that better. Yeah.
Last year against Hermiston, when you guys had to win, Bigland changed the tempo. He talked about even at training camp this year about how that's the way you like to run. Just give me the ball and keep going. Yeah. Where's that mentality come where the more touches you get, the better you feel like you are?
I don't know, just how I've been playing. I don't know, it's just how I like it, I guess.
Do you feel like you need to take a really good hit early on to kind of...
Yeah, I have to get hit at first, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm fine. And then that's when I start getting going. Like I usually start like slow, but then I'll start picking up as the game is going.
Yeah, and as a bigger running back, fourth quarter, if you're wearing teams down, do you feel like that's when you can really take advantage of your size, your speed, and everything else?
Yeah, that's when I usually get like my breakaways. Like we keep our tempo going. It's like I'm still going, and that's when I get my breakaways, my good runs and stuff.
Tuna Alta here, laying down the boom.
How satisfying is it knowing like this is your junior year?
Yeah.
And this is when recruiting kind of comes around. This is the year that kind of people are going to be looking at. So for you to do what you did, what's the type of satisfaction you have going back to off season where you trained so hard for this?
I mean, I'm happy because like I know like I did good, but I just want to keep doing better and just keep going.
Yeah. How's your recruiting process going?
It's going pretty good. I'm talking to a couple of schools right now.
What's some of the schools that kind of have shown some interest in you?
Eastern Washington, Montana, Cal, UCLA, Oregon State. Those are the ones I can name on top of my head right now.
When you're looking at colleges, what are some things that you're kind of weighing?
Just after football, just what I want to do after football. So like off that and just like about like how like I could feel like at home. Still. Yeah.
Let's talk about the playoffs a little bit.
Yeah.
You've seen Kennewick a lot.
Yeah.
What impressed you about their team?
I mean, them coming in with a new coach and like everything that they're going through with like their new school. I mean, they're doing good. Like, and then they have Simeon, Miles, and they have pretty like young like skill players. So that'll be good for them next year. And I was surprised with them this year.
How would you compare your running style versus Miles' running style?
I mean, my running style. More like. I'm a little bit more shiftier. Him like power. I feel a little bit more. Yeah, he's running through people. I'm usually juking and just doing that. Yeah.
What impresses you about his style running?
His power. He doesn't stop his feet. He's always moving his feet. Always find for extra yards.
What's it like playing football on Friday nights here in the Tri-Cities?
It's fun playing on like with all the student sections and how much people come out and watch us. I like it a lot. I mean, been doing it since my freshman year, and I just want to keep doing it. It's pretty fun.
All right, well, we'll wrap this thing up so you can get on out of here, but I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything,
Thank
and
you.
that is the MCC Offensive Player of the Year. Okay, so that was our boy Tuna, Big Fish, as I like to call him.
And he's on your team. He's a Hoshida guy, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He is on Team Hoshida.
So if you don't
Turkey
already
Bowl
know,
2019 unsanctioned event. Probably
sponsored by the Monday TRIfecta
Yeah, we probably
podcast, by
shouldn't
the
be
way.
speaking about it on this on this podcast. So we're going to anyways. But yeah, we have a big Turkey Bowl planned. I mean, we've talked about it. It's
Yep.
Monday. Team Hoshida versus Team Mick Miller. And we're going to play a little flag football. We got to get those flags.
Yep. Quickly, what's your team?
My team.
Who'd you draft?
My number 1 overall pick was Miles, but now Miles
play.
is not playing. I told him last week when we kind of came out with this. I was like, yeah, if you guys win, you're not playing.
Yeah, so he's out.
So he's not in. So I got to replace him. I got Tuna, so I got the 1-2 punch in the backfield. So now, hey, remember when you're like, oh, dude, you got too many running backs? Well, now, no, I was smart. I was like, well, if Miles can't play, I got to get a running back.
Okay.
GM.
See what you did there.
GM.
Okay.
I have him. I have Easton Weishide. I have, who do I have?
Dang, he doesn't even know
I
he's
have
on the
Des
team.
Lincoln.
No, I had Des LeCone. He can't play, but
Oh, yeah,
he's
Deion
on my
Lee.
team.
Deion Lee,
Yeah.
Woodley Downard. Was that 5? No, that was 6. No, and Preston Vine. I got it. See, I got it.
Doesn't even know his team. Look
Miles,
at this.
Deion,
T. Miller,
Easton.
number 1 pick, Ben Fuel. He's playing, locked in. Des LeCone was my 2nd pick. Unfortunately, can't play. He will not be there. 3rd pick, Messiah Jones. J.P. Zamora is my quarterback. Simeon Howard, he can't play because they won, unfortunately. And picked up Caleb Harvey off waivers, but I got to pick up somebody else because Team Miller currently only has 6 players. We need 7. So yeah, I'm going to put on my GM hat this week and hopefully pick up another guy because I
I
lost
have to
Dez
do a lot of
and
planning.
Simeon.
There's a lot of things in my head at the moment that I'm like,
Yeah.
sorry for peeps. But yeah, I know my team. Don't worry. We good.
Gonna be a good
all
time.
We're going to be a good time. I also have to find a replacement for Miles. I also have a trick in the sleeve for that game.
If
Well,
you're
actually,
bringing
not
back
that game.
if you're bringing back MCC dudes to play on your team, is that against the rules?
No.
Did we?
There was no rules.
Gosh, this is the second
There's
one.
no rules. So if there's no rules, no. But it's not for that game. I might have a throwback for game 2.
Okay.
Old man Allen might be playing 2 games, so I better be warming up. I'm gonna bring the foam roller, roll it out on the sidelines. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I will have a big disclaimer. If it's snowing, Allen's gonna be coaching.
If it's snowing, Mick Miller is out there with you. I'm a man of the people. We're gonna have a
You're
freaking
also like
great time.
6 years younger than I am.
That's true too. But you're not old, dude. You act like you're like 50.
Who's the one who on Twitter was like, "Oh, how old are you? You listen to things on the radio?"
That's because you said like your throwback of watching like a 49ers play. I was like, oh, I remember this one day.
Because I was in practice. I was
Listen.
at practice, and we had the radio on. There's no TVs in Wheeler Auditorium.
But when you put that out on Twitter with the generation, they're like, why wouldn't you just pull it up on your phone, ESPN app, watch
Because
ESPN?
they don't know the pain of what it was like to actually try and watch, or like not being able to watch something live, like what that feels like.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a good feeling. And when it's the Packers and the 49ers, which was a huge last whoa.
Hey,
back to
okay.
feeling.
We're going back to young Hoshida in that
going
high
back.
voice.
I'm doing Benjamin Button. No, but Packers and 49ers was a huge rivalry. Last night was supposed to be the rekindle that, not so much. But yeah, these kids these days don't know what it's like to not be able to watch sports live because they could just pull it up on their phones. And I love it too, but like, fourth grade Allen was not being able to watch the Packers 49er game live. So we had to listen to it on the radio. Yes, that's a thing.
While you were balling out.
Yeah, when
at
I was
basketball
getting
practice.
buckets. Little me buckets. I actually led my 3rd grade league in scoring. I think like 3rd and 4th and 5th grade. That's right, guys. I was a baller back in the day when everyone was my height. Everyone's gotten taller. I have not. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Stand up special coming to Netflix. See you there. This is completely gone off the rails from your 3rd grade leading scorer and Nick Miller. Trifecta is done.